I mean, he was there to support USA and the Killer Bees.
Uh-huh.
Which means he always has business there. So anyhow, so now we're about to move on to the next match, which is the legendary Andre the Giant versus Hogan match.
Yeah, I've never actually watched this match, so
let's get to it. Okay, so before we move on to our main event, we'd like to welcome back our guest, the Ohio Nerd. Warren, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, guys. The Ohio Nerd's back in the Rageous Pit. We are here watching the main event. Andre the Giant versus the Hulkamania Hulkmeister in this Granddaddy Throwdown Battle of the Ages. Oh, this is going to be a good one. I can already feel it in the bones.
So, yeah, we already start to get the backstory. We get an Andre interview. We get a Hogan interview where he talks about Hulkamaniacs and everything. And then we get a backstory on how Hogan and Andre were friends. And then basically Andre wants a title shot. It wasn't that Andre became evil
he just wants
per se.
No, he just wants
a chance at the World Heavyweight Championship, as they keep referring to it.
And Hogan like a bitch.
What did you say
was
that
like,
when
no,
they referred
we're
to?
friends, no.
Yeah, Hogan's like, no, Andre, don't do this, brother.
No.
Don't do this, no. And then Piper's like, what you gonna do? Are you gonna take this challenge?
Now, what did you say the title was called again? Did you
they
say
keep
World or
referring
Worlds?
to it as
the Worlds.
The World's Heavyweight.
Yeah, they keep flipping it
because
around.
apparently he is not just the champion of the world.
It's the Worlds.
It is all the worlds.
No, that's why I kept bringing that up. I wanted to point that out to the listeners.
The worlds?
The Worlds.
Yeah,
it's not
Worlds.
just one world, guys. It's the Worlds.
Yes, so this is how they referred it back then. So then we get some announcement that Bob Uecker's coming out and
famous basketball player,
Mr. Baseball.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. They didn't even know what their announcer was from.
No, they didn't. So you get all that, and so then we're on to the match. So the match starts off with a big stare down, which is a kind of footage we've seen constantly throughout wrestling fans' history. They constantly show the footage of kind of the stare down at the beginning of this match. There's a couple moments in this match that are kind of revisited several times.
You know, they're just iconic
WWE
wrestling
history.
moments, you know?
Yes.
It stands out. This is going to be something that's going to echo for the ages.
So this match starts out where Andre's really just brutalizing Hogan. I mean, you can just tell Hogan right from the get-go tries to body slam him and then sells how heavy he is because, oh, my back hurts, and he goes down to his knee. And then Andre just starts pummeling him. So that's how we get the match. It begins this way. This goes on for a while till Hogan gets a little bit of shred of the upper hand, but then Andre takes it right back. They spend some time outside of the ring. Hogan pulls the mat up, so, you know, kind of to show, oh, I'm going to try to throw him onto the concrete, but it never really worked out.
Yeah.
So then they get back in the ring, and Hogan hawks up. He starts the hawk up moment. He starts doing clotheslines on Andre. He starts feeling it. So what does he do? Here comes the one most iconic moment in wrestling history.
The body slam heard round the world.
Exactly. This body slam is massive. Nobody had ever done this to Andre before, and this was huge.
Absolutely, guys. When you hear that buzzing on the radio, I know they taught you in school, is cosmic background radiation. Really, that's just the energy still radiating off from that body slam to the day.
Right. This is science, people. These are facts. So then we get the big leg drop, and then the 1, 2, 3. What'd you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good. You know, honestly, I thought this match was going to go longer than it did. For the entertainment value it provided, I wasn't left like, oh man, like I was left like, oh, it's over already. Like some of these matches we're watching, I think they kind of drag on a little bit, but they still have the good storyline. This one, I was left wanting more, which I think was a great way to end WrestleMania.
All right, so everybody who wants to send me hate mail, they can send it at dragonblazerproductions@gmail.com, because quite frankly, this was a slow and boring match. I didn't like it. I realized that if I was around and I was watching wrestling at this time, it probably was huge. But as a more modern fan, this was a boring match. This was very boring. It was slow, methodical. Andre freaking hugs Hogan for like 5 minutes. I'm sorry, bear hug.
That's more footage we see iconically that they show in WWE history all the time. That bear hug. And I'll tell you what, I'd like to point something out. And you can be a hater all you want. But sometimes in wrestling, you have the David versus Goliath story.
That's not this.
You do. You have the little man, which Hogan isn't a little man.
He's not a little man.
But compared to Andre, everybody is David. He is Goliath. In every match he is. So every once in a while, you're going to have these matches that are really all about this brute strength. And I believe you're telling me you don't enjoy those type of matches, right?
Traditionally, no. Like the big guy versus the big guy, and Hogan is a big guy. Hogan is a big man. Yes, he's smaller than Andre the Giant. And I think what I'm trying to say is, I get why Andre was so big, and I love Andre the Giant. He's in one of my favorite movies. He's in The Princess Bride. I love him. I love Andre the Giant. I like him for the person. I like him, but as a wrestler, he's very slow. He's kind of boring. He was really good in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I'm sorry, the Battle Royal that Andre the Giant was in. And I think that's a big part of, you have a lot of other smaller, more speedy type wrestlers to keep things exciting, where his bigness is able to be an add-on to the match instead of, but you have this match that is just two big guys, one slightly bigger than the other, fighting each other, and it's just a very slow, methodical match. And sometimes that's okay, but I was bored by this match. It was, I get what they were trying. I get that they were trying to show Hogan, struggling with everything. I like that, I guess, but for the most part, this is a slow and boring match. And, very sad that this is the main event.
Oh, come on.
This was a great one. First of all, here, Blaze, just for the listeners out there, I'm going to call you out. If you don't like the bear hug, I will put you in a bear hug. We'll see how long you can make it. I am smaller than Andre the Giant, but I am bigger than the Hawk. The Hawk was built at 6'7", and you already know Vince McMahon's building these people way bigger than they are. So
that's a very good point. Let's talk about your size. We have on the show today, our guest is essentially a giant.
I don't know if I'm a giant, but I am.
You're about as tall as Hulk Hogan.
I am 6'8". I'm bigger than Hulk Hogan.
Bigger than Hulk Hogan.
Hulk Hogan's a little boy.
But
you tell him that.
To most average people, that's not in a wrestling ring, because let's be honest here. Most wrestlers are bigger than your average people.
Yeah, no.
Most
6'5"
NFL
is your
players
average.
are
your
bigger than your
at
average
least 6'5" almost every time.
So we're talking about your average, everyday 6 foot, 6'1", 5'11", those type of people that walk around. You, Warren, are a giant. They look up to you. Not because of your accomplishments.
Because of my accomplishments, too.
Because they have no choice but to look up to you.
I look up. I don't look up to very many people, but I look up to Warren.
And we've been looking up to this kid since he was a teenager.
It's really frustrating.
Okay, so this is our cousin here on the show, and since he was a teenager, he has been taller than us, taller than his dad.
I've been taller than Dad since before I was a teenager.
so before
he was like 10, and he was already towering over.
Let's talk about that. When you played sports as a kid, I've heard stories that your dad had to bring your birth certificate or some kind of proof.
Yeah, I played travel baseball, and my baseball team, we played a lot of tournaments. We went to nationals. We were really good. No, it's humble brag. But anyways, but all the time, parents would be like, "Oh, I know what, that team's cheating. Oh, let's get that birth certificate. Let's see the birth certificate." And my mom was like, "Here it is.
Yeah,
here it is.
You guys
want to argue it? It's right here."
That's just crazy to me to think that, but it's true. This kid's been big since
as long as I remember. It's
right. So
the best parts are in 5th and 6th grade football. I was playing offense, and I hated playing offense, and I pancaked a kid. If you're familiar with football, you know you put them on their butt, and then I didn't want to have to run around, so I just stood there and held my hand over him so he wouldn't get up.
What a bully.
Oh, I got told by the ref that's unsportsmanlike conduct, and if I did it again, I'd be in big trouble.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's...
So let's talk about Blaze's blasphemous comments that he made.
You can email me all you want. Give me all the hate.
He's talking about how slow Andre is, how boring he thinks he is in the ring. Can Andre do more than Andre does?
I mean, you also have to think, guys, Andre the Giant is truly a giant. He's suffering from knee problems, back problems, all sorts of health issues with his giganticism.
I'm not trying to take any of that away from him. I'm just saying that watching him in the ring, he doesn't do much. And his moves are very slow.
I mean, he can step over the top rope, but I don't think you can do that, Blaze. That's pretty
Fair
impressive.
enough.
Does
that make it compelling television for you?
Oh, yeah.
Stepping over the top
100%.
rope?
That's the only reason I watch it.
To see a giant in the ring? Yeah. It's kind of like a circus. You go to see the freaks.
But you're loving
I don't know,
man.
but I think you go to see their talent. Andre has talent. He is able to perform. He is a performer. He knows how to play his part. He plays his character to a T. He represents him in the ring, out of the ring. He's that big, lovable giant.
I love that we
I
have
agree.
this man.
I loved Andre.
I love that we have him, and I get why he was big. No pun intended. I get why he was a huge star. However, watching this main event, it was slow. It was boring. I liked him better in the Battle Royal.
Well, and the sad thing is you're sitting here in one side of the mouth saying that you love Andre the Giant. You love that we had Andre the Giant. And he was a gift to the wrestling world, right? That's what you're saying?
He was a gift to the wrestling world.
Okay. But on the other side of your mouth, you're talking about how boring this is when, let me point out, this is Andre's, I would argue, biggest moment in wrestling history.
You don't think that when he... What about when he gets
Hogan's,
the belt? He gets the championship belt.
This is Hogan's biggest.
No, this moment...
Hogan's best match was with Sergeant Slaughter.
This is the... It was with Ultimate Warrior, but we'll get to that on another episode. I will argue that. But
I can't wait till we get to Ultimate Warrior, because I have a feeling I'm going to be very disappointed.
I don't know. I think it's going to be great. I remember it being great, but
I think I loved him as a kid. This is what I'm afraid of. I think I loved him as a kid because of his personality and how much he commands everything. But I have a bad in his look, and I have a bad feeling that his wrestling ability is not going to be nearly as exciting as his look.
So you think as an adult, Blaze,
I'm going to recognize him. I'm afraid I'm going to be disappointed.
That'll be interesting to get to. That's WrestleMania 6. Keep listening to the show. We will get there. We're going to move on to Survivor Series on the next episode, and we'll eventually get there. But I can't wait to see.
I'm curious.
I believe we're going to see the Ultimate Warrior before we get to WrestleMania 6. But that one iconic match, I'd like to see if it lives up to the memories and the hype that you've kind of put it in your head throughout all these years. That'd be interesting to see.
Now, will say that I would like to see more like the Battle Royal. I'd like to see Andre versus more agile guys. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing him face some more...
Oh, that'd be... Like, could you imagine, like, Andre the Giant versus Rey Mysterio? Where
I was thinking of Rey Mysterio when he was talking. I was like, you never really had a chance to wrestle Rey Mysterio. What are you talking about?
Those high flyers that jump around, quick speed.
But yeah, exactly.
You want to see the speed?
I want to see that, because if you look at Brock Lesnar matches... Now, Brock Lesnar's a big dude. He's not Andre big, but for example, your big dudes like Big Show, Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, big guys, okay, their best matches, and Brock Lesnar will say it himself, his favorite matches are against people like CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, Rey Mysterio. He likes those smaller guys. He likes those people. He says they bring the best out of him. I think he said he loved facing AJ Styles. Not a big dude. His favorite matches, because he feels like they bring the best out of him. The big guys, the heavyweights, he finds them boring. He finds them, there's just big guy versus big guy. So I'd love to see Andre, because I don't think it's entirely his fault, but when he lifts his... Well, okay, the one thing I do think is his fault, when he lifts his foot up for a big boot, it's slow. It's like, there's no reason you can't dodge that. So...
Oh, my Lord.
So you're saying just stop?
Yeah, you're saying basically you want to get rid of the kayfabe for that moment?
I was going to say, because now you're entering a world of where wrestling isn't what it is.
Yeah, man, it's
You're
kayfabe.
trying to make wrestling a real fight.
It's sports entertainment.
I'm just saying.
Okay, you want to talk about realism? If that man got in the ring with anybody, he hits him over the head, they're done.
Absolutely.
Come on.
If that's the story they want to tell, cool.
Come on. I mean,
oh my Lord.
They did it with King Kong Bundy, and which WrestleMania did we see King Kong Bundy? That was the first WrestleMania?
I would like to see him face
come
like
on.
Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Macho Man Randy Savage, these guys that are actual agile wrestlers instead of Hulk Hogan.
I think what you're saying is there's an adage in sports that speed kills, but strength punishes. And you want to watch that killer speed go against that punishing, brutal strength.
I want to see the chess match.
You want to see the match of,
yeah.
Is it, who's going to win out? The big guy who lands those more powerful blows and has to land less of them? Or the quick guy who has to land a whole bunch more but has the opportunity to land a whole bunch more?
I have a hard time really buying Hogan as the David.
Well, now that Blaze has shit on my childhood, my real American hero, Hulk Hogan, the man who brought me into the
I
wrestling
think
world.
Sergeant Slaughter's the real American hero. G.I. Joe.
We're talking growing up. If you grew up at this time, Hulk Hogan was every kid's hero.
I get that. I'm looking at this through a lens of modern wrestling fan.
Okay,
I get that.
Fair enough.
He has
still
like
think
brown
this match
tinted
is
glasses
iconic.
instead of rose tinted glasses.
I enjoyed the match.
Oh, I liked it. I thought it was very entertaining.
So we've got 2 against 1, which means once again Blaze is wrong.
I would
Remember,
argue,
viewers, feel free to. He has his email there. Feel free to hit him all the hate mail.
Go ahead, send it to me.
So now's a good time to tell everybody, join the discussion on the Rage and Blaze show. We've got a Facebook page. We have a
you got an Instagram.
I've got Twitter at Ricky Rayberg. Come join the conversation. Tell Blaze how wrong he is, or agree with him. Be dumb like Blaze. I don't care. Whatever you want to do. If you see one of our links or our hashtags, click join on the page. We'll get involved in this conversation.
I do not understand how you cannot be slightly disappointed by that match.
Because
I just literally said, Blaze,
so hyped.
I just said I was left wanting more.
Okay.
I was entertained. I was
enjoyed
entertained.
it.
That match could have went on for another 5 minutes, and I still would have been entertained.
I was entertained.
I would have fell asleep in 5 minutes.
Dear Lord, Blaze. So he's got an extreme opinion about this match. I think this match is one of the most iconic.
One might even dare to say Blaze's opinion is totally based on him wanting to be controversial.
No. This is my actual feelings. It was lackluster.
Sure.
I've heard about this match for so many years. I finally watch it, and it was just a boring, slow match.
So are you saying you've never watched this match before?
I've never watched this match before.
You've never watched this match?
I haven't gone through these at WrestleMania. This is all new to me.
So I've seen this match. I don't know if I've watched the whole WrestleMania. So sitting and watching the whole WrestleMania might be new. But I had actually bought a box set years ago. They had the history of WrestleMania. I think it was the first 21 WrestleManias. I bought a box set, and I went through and watched mostly the main events. the iconic moments in wrestling history. I probably didn't sit and watch like we're doing now from beginning to end WrestleMania. So I've seen a lot of these matches. I guess I knew what to expect from the match. And when you have a guy like Andre the Giant, I didn't expect the Hardy Boys, which I think's,
Yeah.
I'm not saying I expected the Hardy Boys.
I didn't expect that tables, ladders, chairs.
Slow, boring match.
You know what I mean? There's just
Steve's
certain
over here
things.
wanting Money in the Bank match wasn't around yet.
You just kind of go into certain matches
With a mindset.
With a mindset, and I enjoyed what I saw.
Hey, if you want your rose-tinted glasses on, that's great. Put them on. Enjoy the match. I'm looking at this through the perspective of someone who's loved wrestling for years, and that was a boring match.
So you can love wrestling for years, but not appreciate the history of how far it's come.
I can appreciate it, but I can also give a... If you want honest opinions, I'm giving you honest opinions. You don't want honest opinions? Listen to some other crap show.
That's right, guys. Here at the Rage and Blaze Show, keeping it 100% real all the time, every time.
Fair enough. Okay, so at this moment, we'd like to say goodbye to our special guest, the Ohio Nerd. Warren, you have anything to say to the listeners before you go?
Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure here on the Rage and Blaze Show. Make sure you are subscribed to them if you are on iTunes. Leave them that 5-star review. If you guys like to check me out, hear more, I focus on toys, collectibles, comics, video games, all that pop culture, and more on @OhioNerd on YouTube, @OhioNerd on Instagram, @OhioNerd on Facebook. I hope to see you guys there. Let me know you found me through the show.
Thanks for joining the show.
It was great having you.
Okay, so that concludes WrestleMania 3. But before we close the show, let's move on to our segment, What is Your Favorite Match? Favorite Match of the Night! So, this WrestleMania, I feel, had a lot of actual great matches. One stood out a little bit more special to me.
I feel like there's no question about it. We both know the greatest match.
Yeah, so let's just go on with it. The Intercontinental Championship match between Macho Man Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was a classic. And it was such a classic that you heard, it was, I believe, Gorilla Monsoon or Jesse the Body. I can't remember who said it. But immediately after the match, they called it a classic.
Match. Yeah.
And the one said, in my 11 years of covering wrestling, this is the greatest match I've ever seen. And that was in 1987 up to that point. So this was something special. You could tell this was just a clinic. It was amazing.
It was the best match of the night. There's no arguing it. If you want to argue with me and be wrong, that's fine, but you are wrong.
Yeah, and if you want to argue with us about this, get on the Facebook page, get on the Instagram, the Twitter, email us, and we'll tell you why you are wrong. We don't know what you're going to say
we're telling
to
you
argue
right now
this
you're
yet,
wrong.
But we're telling you you're wrong.
There is no better match on this card than Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Macho Man Randy Savage.
And if you disagree with that, you're basic.
You're basic.
Okay, let's move on to the next segment, which we talk about the worst match of the night.
Worst match of the night.
So, worst match of the night for me was a little harder to choose in this WrestleMania. I felt like this was probably the first WrestleMania we've watched that was almost a complete show, that it was really good from beginning to end. I feel like we've had some duds in WrestleMania 2, WrestleMania 1, but this one, this has definitely been a very good one. So, if you had to pick your worst match of the night, Blaze, where would you go?
Well, I look at 3 different matches here. There's the Coco Beware match, which was more, it was fine. So it wasn't bad. It just was fine. There was the offensive tag team match, 6-man tag team match with our little people. And then the main event is boring.
But what?
I don't know if I can call it the worst match of the night. I think it was just my biggest disappointment. It wasn't so much that it was the worst match. It was just all this build-up. And compared to all the build-up for Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, where that one actually delivered, the Andre and Hulk Hogan moment fizzled. So I don't know if I can consider that the worst. I think I'm going to go with the Coco Beware. I'm going to go with the Coco Beware match because the Little People match was mostly just awkward and weird, but it was still had a lot of fun moments. Little People were pretty fun to watch wrestle. It just was uncomfortable. Where the Coco Beware match was just more, It was just short, not really that great. On a WrestleMania like this, it's hard to pick a worse match. I'm going to go with the Coco Beware match.
You know, it's sad to say that because I really liked Coco Beware growing up.
So do I. I like Tito too, but he was in my worst match too.
Yeah, I didn't think the match was bad. I didn't think it was special. It was only 3 minutes long. So due to that reason, I'm going to have to go with the 6-man tag team match with Hillbilly Jim and his little buddies and King Kong Bundy. Because for me, that match was one of those moments in wrestling where it was just kind of, hey, let's laugh and have fun. And it just didn't do nothing for me. Where at least with the Coco Beware match and the Natural Butch Reed, it was a decent match. It just was short, and there just wasn't nothing to really write home about. So for that reason alone, and I do agree that this was a really hard one to pick, because there really wasn't that bad of a match in this, where I felt like when we did the WrestleMania 1 and WrestleMania 2 podcast, I really felt like it was a lot easier to pick a bad match, because some of those last 2 pay-per-views, there was multiple matches that we could have selected.
Oh, yeah.
Where in this one, I think there's a clear-cut winner. You think it's a kind of a 3-way, had to pick one, and to put Hogan in that list of matches is just appalling.
Hey, just because you're amazing, just because you're a legend, does not mean you have every match is great.
He ended a 15-year undefeated streak.
And you know what? If we were adults and we were watching wrestling for 15 years and we got to see that streak build and then finally end it, maybe we would have different opinions. Our feelings might have played more of a factor into that. But we are fans that know what was happening, what was going to happen, and it was just, if you go just by that match, take away the history. You take away the streak. You take away the fact that body slamming Andre is a big deal at this time. You take it away and you watch it as a viewer, it was a boring match.
I'm sorry you feel that way, but you're wrong again. So now, since we have concluded with WrestleMania 3, we have 3 WrestleManias now under our belt. Let's go ahead and start another segment, let's ranking the WrestleManias. So now we've seen 3 WrestleManias. Let's go ahead. Let's extensively talk about ranking them. Have you figured out your rankings yet?
Oh, I think it's easy. It's simple. WrestleMania 3 is by far the best WrestleMania we've watched so far. And then I would put WrestleMania 2, and then WrestleMania 1. Because WrestleMania 1 was essentially a glorified house show.
That's whatever. Okay, so he's shitting on your childhood, guys. If you're listening to this podcast and you care about these old pay-per-views, just remember he's shitting on your childhood. So send your hate mail.
Send the hate mail. I love the hate.
Send your hate mail to the email provided.
I know what makes you cheer. Your hate means nothing to me.
The Facebook page, the Instagram, the Twitter, just send it all. He deserves it. So my rankings is the same. WrestleMania 3 so far has by far been the greatest WrestleMania we've seen so far. It was amazing. There really wasn't that bad of any matches. Even the 6-man tag match that was probably offensive in today's world. It was a fun match to watch, but it wasn't. It was just a moment of comedy in the show, and I mean, up to the best match, which was just a classic and amazing. And unlike you, Blaze, I thoroughly enjoyed the Hogan Andre the Giant match. I remember that footage. I remember the body slam. It was amazing. I loved it. I loved it for what it is. No, it's not comparable to what guys like Randy Savage and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat do in the ring. It's a different style of wrestling, but it was still fun to me. I enjoyed it.
It's a different
style
style that's more boring.
So, agree to disagree. I liked it. I loved all the back and forth, and just to see Hogan overcome and be able to body slam the big man and end the 15-year streak. So then WrestleMania 2 definitely was better than WrestleMania 1. I thought the King Kong Bundy Hulk Hogan main event was awesome. And I'll give you this. This might even be a little controversial. I enjoyed that main event better than this main event. Although I still really enjoyed the Andre match. I thought the King Kong Bundy match was really good. It was a steel cage match, which helps it. I mean, that really helps. That really helps when you add the elements of...
We really didn't get any cool gimmicky matches.
No, we didn't. We didn't get no craziness. We got the hair versus hair. That was in there. Even for a match...
That was a stipulation.
Yeah, that was a stipulation. It wasn't really a match. So the biggest gimmick we got was the little people wrestling in the 6-man tag match. But really, yeah, there wasn't a lot of, crazy type matches in this one. So I really enjoyed the steel cage. And then WrestleMania 1, I mean, it gave us WrestleMania. Unfortunately, it's got to be at the bottom. It's got to be at the bottom of the list. But the main event was a tag team match. I mean, which now...
With an actor.
Yeah, with an actor. But he had his time as an athlete, too. So, I mean, he was kind of a hybrid. I mean, look at The Rock today. The Rock's an actor.
The Rock is a wrestler first.
No, you're right.
The best actor.
But, I mean, it just is what it is. The Miz was an actor, sort of. I mean, he was in The Real World and stuff before he showed up on Tough Enough and became a wrestler. So, I don't think you can just treat Mr. T like he wasn't important. He was athletic enough to put on a match.
I mean, he was fine, and it was a fine match. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying there's a difference between Mr. T and Miz. Miz dedicated his life to wrestling. He started out, yes, on The Real World and was a douchebag on The Real World. And then he became a douchebag in wrestling. But he's a really good douchebag. He's a fantastic heel. Miz devoted his life to wrestling. He wasn't even that good of a wrestler when he first came out. But he got better. He focused his talents, and now he's one of the best.
Well, Mr. T didn't want to be tied down to one career.
I'm just saying
he pitied a fool who tied him down
I'm just
to one
saying
career.
Mr. T is an actor who did some wrestling and did some stuff, and The Miz became a wrestler. There's a difference there. There's a distinguishing difference.
Fair enough. Okay, so that concludes this episode of the Rage and Blaze Show. We will post our rankings on our Facebook page. You'll be able to see that. We also put up
A polls,
and we try to get your opinion on what you think the best WrestleMania has been, what you think the best matches have been.
and we'll add WrestleMania 3 on that poll now that we've watched it.
So we'll add that to the poll. So definitely check us out on the Facebook, on the Insta, on the Twitter. Definitely check us out on that. We've got the email address. And thank you for listening. And this has been the Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
And your winners, and still tag team champions of podcast, The Rage and Blaze Show. Thank you for listening. Good night.